I've got to lead from the front. I've got to be a role model for the rest of my team. And that's not about jumping around and going, be all right, don't worry about it, who cares? Because we do. We absolutely care about it. Ruben Amorim's start at Manchester United has raised big questions, not just about football, but about leadership. What happens when a leader's behaviours work against their own success? Welcome to Sound Leadership, the podcast for the silent superheroes of L&D, HR and leadership, the show that helps you build awareness and inspire personal responsibility through action. I'm your host, Dan Boniface, and with me is co-host Darren Draper. In this special bonus episode, we're exploring how poor leadership behaviours, from rigid planning to lack of presence and trust, are damaging Amorim's start at Manchester United. These are the same behaviours that can derail any leader in sport or business. Stay with us until the end, where we'll share our top 3 leadership soundbites. And don't forget to hit subscribe, give us a follow, leave your comments and share with others that you think will benefit from sound leadership. Darren, good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Thank you. Yourself?
I am excellent. Looking forward to going through this episode and sharing some insights around leadership. And we thought we'd take a look at a leader that's currently in elite sport and see what we can learn from some of their behaviours and some of the things that he's currently doing. And we're going to do a little switch around today, so that you're the big football fan in the room. So you're going to lead the way and ask some of the questions this time round. So I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, no, I think there's a few caveats that we need to bring in, at the front. Is we're not going to talk about Man United as a club. So we're not going to dive into that and some of the dynamics in there. And I may think I'm a football expert, but we're not going to dive into the real tactics of it as well from that footballing side. What we're really interested in are those behaviours that are shown that actually as leaders we can learn from. Because what we're not saying in this episode is that Amorim is a great leader or a poor leader. These are just behaviours we've seen and actually what's our interpretation of some of those behaviours. Now, we're going to explore emotional intelligence quite a lot in this episode. So, Dan, could you give us like an overview of what emotional intelligence is?
Yeah, so emotional intelligence, I'll say it started in the 1990s. It didn't. It's been around for as long as humans have been around. But Daniel Goleman's at the forefront of that. His book is definitely worth reading. Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence. Also, people like Daniel Pink are been at the forefront of emotional intelligence as well. There's 5 components to it, and we break those down first of all by emotional intelligence is looking at understanding our own emotions and knowing how to regulate them, and then it's understanding other people's emotions. So when we look at the 5 components, self-awareness and self-regulation, that's our own emotions, being aware of how I feel at any given moment in time. And then what am I doing about that? So I feel angry, sad, excited, joyful, but what am I doing to regulate those emotions? Not to squash them, not to dismiss them, because we should acknowledge our emotions, but to understand, okay, I feel excited at the moment, I feel happy about something. Well, what is that? And what does that mean? And what am I going to do with that feeling? We then look at the emotions of others, and we cannot control someone else's emotions. So we seek first to understand, then be understood. So empathy is always the starting point, not to be confused with sympathy. Sympathy is pity. Sympathy is playing the victim role with someone. Empathy is understanding their perspective and their viewpoint. And then we look at motivation and social skills. So once we've understood their point of view, how do we, for example, move them away from a negative thought into a more positive thought and then a positive action off the back of that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we're exploring today is around that self-awareness and that self-regulation, and sometimes accepting how we're feeling, but actually how do I need to adapt my behaviour to make sure that it doesn't impact the team and the people around me. So we're going to really look at a recent game between Man United and Grimsby in the League Cup, of which Man United finally lost on penalties, and sort of we're going to look at 3 different points in the game and after the game and analyse that from a leadership perspective. So the first picture that I've got in my mind is him, the rain thrashing down, 2-0 down on the score in the left-hand corner, and he's got his little tactics board out moving things. He's isolated on the bench. He hasn't got his coachings surrounded him. Now, from my perspective, that shows a few things. It shows a lack of planning. It shows him isolated, that he's not getting advice from others. And it shows he's not engaging in the team and looking for that innovation from his coach and staff. Now, Dan, from a leadership perspective, what's that visual affair showing you?